Hello everyone, this is Ollie and today we'll be taking a look at the new update of the GrainTable M4L V0.8.2 device by Altar of Wisdom. But what is GrainTable? GrainTable is Altar's faithful recreation of the famous grain oscillator from the Axis Virus TI hardware synthesizer in a M4L V0.8 device format, meaning you don't need to own an expensive hardware synthesizer anymore to get that famous glassy sound that shaped modern psychedelic dance music. That said, today we will take a look at the GrainTable device by Altar of Wisdom, we will make some sounds with it, and we will hear it in action in a full track. Now, if you take a look at the GrainTable device, it's actually pretty straightforward. We have a Wavetable engine in here that gets modulated, basically AM modulated by a carrier oscillator in here. The whole modulation can be controlled by the GrainTable engine in here, and then everything feeds to a filter, multimode filter, that feeds to a wave shaper, and then everything goes out to our speaker via the amp section in here. It's the most straightforward subtractive synthesizer architecture possible, but what makes it special is the way it operates. See, the Wavetable engine in here will split the signal into two portions. Basically, it'll duplicate it. One of these portions will get AM modulated by the carrier oscillator, and this, in a nutshell, is how the grain oscillator operates, and this is how we produce this famous sound. So, now that we have this in mind, if we take a look at the device, everything falls in place. I mean, let's start by the Wavetable section. It's pretty straightforward. If we click on this button in here, we can load our favorite Wavetable folder. But to be honest, I don't like to limit myself to one Wavetable folder. I would like to pick the wavetables I like and load them inside GrainTable. And this, by the way, is one of the new features that Altar of Wisdom added, the possibility to load different wavetables from different folders and then create our own folder of wavetables. Because the thing with GrainTable is that not every wavetable would get us the right sound, so we need to spend some time to find the right wavetables for the job. So what I'll do, I'll go to my general wavetable folder in here, I'll choose some wavetable. Let's go with, for example, Sundial from the Axis Virus TI synthesizer. Let's go with the basic shape from Serum, for example. Let's pick another wavetable on random, I don't know, yeah, let's take this one. I don't know, whatever. And now we have all of these wavetables in the list in here. And when I click on one, it'll load it into the Wavetable engine. And now if I'm happy with this list, all what I have to do is click on this little button in here and we can save the whole list of wavetables to a desired folder. So we can recall it every time we want to use the device. Now, speaking of wavetables, a wavetable is a bunch of single cycles that we put together to create the wavetable, but these single cycles can be longer or shorter depending on how the wavetable was created. And with the frame size selector in here, we can dial the correct length of these single cycles so the wavetable engine will play them correctly. Next, we have a wavetable position selector in here. With it, we can select exactly which frame or basically which single cycle we want to play. And we have a randomizer for the wavetable position in here. Basically, every time we play a new note, a new random value will modulate the wavetable position in here. And we will end up the wavetable section with these four knobs that gives us full control over the tuning and the volume of the two portions of the sound. And for the tuning, we can choose from free, basically in cents, or in semitones, or in octaves, as you desire. Next, we have the carrier oscillator section in here. It gives us full control over the wave shape of the oscillator. We can choose from sine, triangle, best results, triangle, so up, so down, wavetable. Just like with the wavetable section in here, we can load our own wavetable. We can choose the frame size and the wavetable position right in here. And we have the envelope section. This envelope section allows us to draw our own wave shapes or choose one of the presets that we have in here. We can also modify them, change the grid size the way we like. We can also turn off the snapping to the grid so we have exactly full control to where to put these dots. And when we have a shape that we like, we can save it with this button in here and recall it with this one right in here. Next, we have the GrainTable engine control section. This is where the magic happens. Starting with the carrier oscillator volume, so we can blend it with the modulated sound. And here we have the modulation knob. This is the knob that does the whole thing. Check this out. Okay, the gain is too low. Let's give it a tiny bit of gain. Okay. Now, let's dial some PW. Yep, magic is happening. Let's detune these oscillators a little bit more. Yep, that famous sound with just one knob. Now, I don't know if with YouTube's compression you've heard this clickiness at the high end, especially, with higher values of the PW knob. Check this out. Yeah, right in here you can hear this clickiness. Now, with the interpolate knob in here, we can take off this clickiness because it's some sort of a declicker basically. So if I'll dial some interpolate, hear how it'll smooth up the sound. And you have to find the right balance with the interpolate knob because too much of it, it'll act as some sort of a low-pass filter. Check this out. There's no more high end. So you always have to dial somewhere in between, not having too much clickiness and not taking off all of the high end. So somewhere between maybe 40% is good for this sound. Yeah, even like 34, that's even better. And just like with the wavetable position knob in here, we have a randomizer for the PW, basically a randomizer for the modulation value. And if we look at the bottom of this section, there's this parameter glide in here. What it'll do, it'll smooth up the modulation when we're adding it. So without it, it'll jump between the values. Check this out. It's just jumping between these values. If we add some parameter glide, it'll smooth up this modulation. Check this out. Hear how it smoothed up the modulation? And this, by the way, sounds way more like the Virus TI than without any of the parameter glide. And just like with the interpolate knob in here, you have to find the right balance with the parameter glide because it introduces latency, and this might not be suitable for live jamming. Up next, we have the PW amp knob in here. It's basically a volume knob for the modulation signal. This is really useful if you want to blend it with the carrier, or let's say we've changed the volume of these two portions of the sound, then we've introduced a little bit of the carrier. So this helps us just level things the way we like. And we will end up the GrainTable engine section in here with these two FM knobs. It's basically the carrier oscillator FMing independently each of the two sections of the sound. And it's actually one of these features that when Alter told me about it, I was thinking to myself, okay, but why do we need FM? And actually, when I put it to test, I figured, oh my God, this is one of the best things. Check this out. Let's take a sine wave. I'll go with the basic shape wavetable in here that I've loaded earlier, right? Let's modulate it. Sounds super awesome already. Now let's FM it. Check this out. This sounds super awesome. Now we can detune these oscillators a bit more, like this maybe. Maybe add a little bit of interpolate. I mean, with these two FM knobs in here, Alter of Wisdom pushed the wave shaping possibilities of the sound to a whole new level. Like, it's something I've never thought I would need in a grain oscillator, right? Just check this out. Let's give it just a tiny bit of delay. Next, we have the amp section, basically the output section, and here we have the classic ADSR envelope on the amp, and you can control the shape of the attack, the decay, and the release section just the way you like. And there's a level control for the amp envelope in here. To be honest, I rarely use it because there's a gain knob in here, and for me it's just straightforward. And there's velocity to amp modulation control in here, so if you want the device to react to the incoming velocity and change its volume according to the velocity, you can control it right in here. For me, I keep it on 0%, but that's me. Next, there's the multi-mode filter in here. You have all the classic shapes: low pass, high pass, band stop. There's also a peak, low shelf, high shelf, resonant, and there's also an all pass. That's actually a nice addition. And all of these shapes comes in 12, 24, 36, and 48 decibels per octave. This is really versatile. We can control the frequency of the filter with this knob in here. We can control the gain of the filter with the knob in here. There's a Q, basically a resonance control in here. And we have a random modulator for the filter and the smooth, basically adding glide to the random modulator in here, making the modulation smoother than just stepping between values. And to finish it off, there's a mix knob in here, so we can basically filter the signal in parallel and maybe add just a tiny bit of the dry signal to it to complete it. I mean, you can get really creative in here. Next, we have a wave shape section in here. It's basically saturation. And by the way, you can draw your own shape, or you can choose one of these presets in here. You can control the saturation with this knob in here. And just like with the envelope section in here, you can save your own shapes and record them the way you like. And to finish it off, there's a scope that allows us to see what's going on with the signal. Check this out. And that was, in a nutshell, a full overview of the GrainTable device by Altar of Wisdom. Now, let's hear it in action and make some sounds with it. Alright, so for the first example, I want to create a main lead using GrainTable for this track that I'm working on. First, let's hear the track. It sounds like this. It's pretty groovy, but it lacks a main lead to create a proper question and answer with these already sequenced lead that I've added. So we're going to use GrainTable obviously for that, and we need a random arpeggiator to sequence it. For that, I'll use autoplay from Altar of Wisdom. Let's just add it like so. I don't want any 1/4 division, and just a tiny bit of 1/8 and a lot of 1/16. And the gate in here, I want to increase the minimum value, maybe it's somewhere like 40%, and the maximum value, let's set it to 80 for now. Now, before playing the sequence, in the GrainTable device, I've already loaded a sine wave, just like so. And what I'll do, I'll just modulate it almost all the way up, like this. And now we have this result. Okay, I don't want any velocity to amplitude modulation here. Let's set it to 0, and I need a little bit of gain. Okay, we have a little bit of clickiness. Let's add some release like so. Maybe some attack. And I'll add some interpolation in here. Basically, it's the declicker. Okay, way better. Now, what I want to do, I'll set the detuning of the first portion of the sound to semitones, just like so, and I'll modulate the detuning to get this result. And as you can hear, it goes really harsh on the high end. So what we will do, we'll fix that with the filter. But first of all, we need to modulate the detuning. And to do so, I'll take multi-LFO from Altar of Wisdom, and I'll map this LFO to modulate the detuning. I'll set it to a value of maybe between 40 and 70%, should get us some really nice values. And I'll set the LFO to triangle. I'll sync it and maybe set it to, let's say, a couple of bars in here. Let's give it some line width like so. And now we have this result. Okay, we can ask it to modulate maybe 30% on the lower side, so we'll get more juiciness of the sound. Okay, perfect. Now with the filter in here, I'll set it to bandpass 24 decibels per octave. I'll give it some resonance, just like so, and I'll modulate it with the same LFO, but in the opposite direction as of the detuning. To do so, let's expand multi-LFO like so, and let's modulate the bandpass like this. Now let's set the maximum value maybe to 70, and the minimum value, let's set it to 40. Now we have this. Okay, that's too much. Set it to 50. Okay, maybe the minimum value, let's set it to 60. Perfect. Now we just need a delay, and for that I'll use sample delay from Altar of Wisdom. I'll keep it 1/8 dotted. I'll set it to ping pong like this, maybe a bit less wet signal. And now let's give it some gain. We have this. Perfect. So with the whole sequence, we'll get this. Now that's pretty psychedelic. Now let's check the next sound. For the second sound, I've wanted to create kind of like a lead atmosphere that will fill up the space in the break and will continue with this glassy feel of the track that we've just created with the main lead. And to do so, for sure, we'll be using GrainTable. Now I've loaded a wavetable from the Virus. It's called Valentine, and it sounds like this. Nothing too special for now, but let's add a random arpeggiator. I'll go with autoplay. I'll set it just like with the first example, almost 1/16th, a little bit of 1/8. The gate minimum value, I'll push it to maybe 40%. The maximum, let's set it to 80, something like this. And now let's add some modulation on this wavetable and we'll get this. Okay, nothing too special. Let's take both portions of the sound 1 octave lower like this. Let's take off the velocity modulation on the amplitude like this, and let's give the sound some gain. Now that's pretty glassy and Virus-like. So what I'll do, to start off, I'll modulate the PW knob. For that, I'll take multi-LFO, and I'll set the first LFO to be on a triangle wave. I'll sync it, and I'll set it to something slow, maybe 4 bars like this. And I'll ask it to modulate the PW knob. The minimum value will be somewhere like 50%, and now we have this. That's perfect, but the sound is a bit dry and I want to make it a bit more interesting. For that, I'll use the D1630 from Altar of Wisdom 2. It's basically a delay with a pitch shifter in it. And what I'll do, I'll set the delay in here to 1/8 dotted. It's already set like so. And I'll modulate this shift parameter with the same LFO modulating the PW of the grain oscillator. So let's expand like so, and let's modulate the pitch shifter, just like so. And I'll set the modulation to maybe 40% and 60%, just a tiny bit. And I'll add some Doppler like this, and maybe a bit more feedback, but less dry and wet signal. And now we have this. Okay, that's way too much feedback, less feedback. Bit more dry and wet. And I'll set the shifter in here to a value of 1000. But I need to map it again like so. So now we have this. That's really nice. Now let's add a classic 1/8 dotted ping pong delay using the sample delay from Altar of Wisdom, just like so. But we need to add a tiny bit of it because now we have 2 delays basically doing their thing. So now we have ping pong on, now we have this. Now let's hear our break with everything running. Oh my god, this is really good. And what we can do is add a little bit of random modulation on the PW, just like so. And now every time GrainTable will receive a new note, it'll just fire a new random modulation on the PW parameter. So now we have this. Maybe set the random modulation to negative values like so. Now we have this. Oh my god, this sounds so good. We can add maybe a bandpass filter, just like so. Close it, give it some resonance, and now we have this. And we can be a bit more adventurous by taking the oscillators in here another octave lower, so we get like something really organic. Yeah, something like this. Let's hear it with everything. This sounds really good. And yeah, that was the GrainTable device by Altar of Wisdom in a nutshell. I really hope you've liked this video. I really hope you've learned something new. See you next time.